today brings the story of two mothers. The first mother came to a tunnel after her breathing stopped. In the tunnel experienced many strange things. Let's start our story today. During the 4 months after I gave birth to my daughter, I had frequent fainting spells. I had been sick a lot during my pregnancy and my doctor thought it was some kind of pregnancy-related illness. During a later examination, I discovered the cause of the fainting spells. I had gallstones in my gallbladder. The doctor immediately scheduled me for surgery. The surgery took close to 6 hours. After the surgery, I went back to the ward to rest. By the latter part of the night, my breathing became difficult and I couldn't move my body. I felt like I was going to die. I thought about my newborn daughter. Slowly, I lost consciousness. When I woke up again, I appeared in a dark tunnel. There were many people around me. They were walking without purpose. I spoke to them, but none of them paid any attention to me. At the end of the tunnel, there was a very beautiful bright light. The closer I got to this light, the more relaxed I felt, and I had a feeling of being loved. This was a new thing for me. I wanted to keep going, I wanted to get closer to it. I had just gone some distance when a figure blocked me. He was very close to me, but I couldn't see his face. He showed me something and I saw pieces of my life scrolling in front of me. I said, I don't want to relive this, life is too hard. Then I started to cry. He told me, you can only rely on yourself if you want life to get better. You can help many people because your soul is pure. You are needed on earth. I immediately thought of my daughter. Then, I found myself moving backwards and falling into a vortex. Then, I appeared in a room that did not look like my ward. As I peered around the room, I heard many people talking next door. I saw a group of doctors and nurses. The doctor said, "It's over, we've lost her." He looked at his watch and announced the time of death. At this point, the nurse said to the doctor, "We can try electroshock again." After all, she was only 23 years old, and she had a newborn daughter. The doctor looked at her and said, "Unfortunately, I'm not God, I can't bring the dead back to life." At the nurse's insistence, they prepared to try one last time. The doctor walked toward a medical device. Then I went back into my body. I was sent to my original hospital room. My roommate asked me, "What happened to you?" I told her, I experienced something strange. I told her the whole story and she doubted what I said, but I didn't think it mattered. Only I knew what I was going through. Next is our second story. I suffered from severe depression and I would often feel anxious. Looking back on what happened in the past, I would also worry about things that didn't happen in the future. I knew this was bad, but I couldn't control myself and it made me very miserable. When I was alone, I often asked God, "Why did you abandon me? I can only see the evil in the world. I am no longer your child, and you no longer love me." I broke down and cried. I took an overdose of Zoloft. When I was about to lose consciousness, I looked up and said, "God, you don't want me here, so I'm leaving." I was unconscious for a while, and when I opened my eyes again, I was actually alive. My son was sleeping next to me. I prayed that his father would come and get him so he could live a little better. I had lost all my possessions and I considered myself a failure. As my son slept, my head started to hurt and it felt like my head was about to explode. I couldn't think or analyze the situation. It felt like I had lost contact with my body. My body and mind were completely separated. I didn't leave my body, it felt like I was next to it all the time. The sun came out and my son woke up. I still could not move. My son checked my condition and cried for me to get up. I whispered, "I'm fine, don't worry." My son brought me a glass of water, but I couldn't open my mouth. I looked out the window. I wanted to get some fresh air. I smelled something strange and my son said I had peed my pants, but I didn't feel anything. My son started yelling and screaming. He yelled over and over again, "Get up, get up." I still couldn't move and I felt like all my organs were stopping working. My heart was beating slower and slower, I could barely feel it, I was dying. I looked at my son and I prayed to God, "Please forgive me, I want to live." My consciousness became blurred and I fell into a dark tunnel. It was pitch black and I couldn't see anything. Suddenly, I saw a snake-like creature crawling toward me and I was terrified. I knew I was surrounded by these creatures. They lunged at me and I kept falling down. I was terrified and I felt like I was going to hell. I prayed for God to forgive me for my transgressions. I prayed for God to take my soul away. I began to pray over and over again. The next thing I knew I appeared in another tunnel, this one going up. This tunnel was very bright and had indescribable colors. I walked very fast and at the end there was a light. I felt calm. I was completely mesmerized and wanted to keep walking towards it. I heard a voice telling me not to continue on, that I had to go back. I went back into my body. After a while, I was able to move my body slowly. I asked my son to go to the living room and get me a glass of water. After my son left, I told God that I was very sorry for the suicide. I thanked him for giving me this opportunity and promised that I wouldn't screw it up. As I was dying, I felt hell. An indescribable horror. For me, it was like I had one leg in hell and one leg in heaven. Jesus saved me at the last minute. I told God that I would stay on earth and be a good mother. We didn't have a phone at the time and my son went next door and called the emergency number. I was in the emergency room for 3 days. They moved me to a mental hospital because it was a suicide attempt. I didn't care because I was still alive. I am so thankful for what God did for me.